The wind howls through the cracks in the rock. Outside, the dark sky presses down, thick and cold, like a blanket too heavy to bear. Inside the cave, the air is still, heavy with silence, save for the sound of a flame crackling softly, its orange glow flickering across jagged stone. The heat rises from the fire, warming the faces of those huddled around, their bodies pressed close together, seeking comfort in the flickering light. It's the only warmth in a world where the frost never seems to fully let go. Outside, snow piles higher with every passing hour. But here, there's a pulse. The smell of smoke mixes with the scent of earth, the dry skin of animals, the smell of sweat, of survival. The quiet hum of breath fills the space, low and rhythmic, like the world is holding its breath. Here, in this quiet stillness, warmth is precious. But it's not just warmth. They don't know it yet, but it's also protection. A fire, a barrier between them and the endless cold that presses in from every side. But it is not enough. There is no full escape, only survival, moment by moment. The wind carries no mercy. It cuts through the body like a blade, sharp and endless. The ice comes down from the mountain with the fury of 1,000 storms, sweeping across the land, leaving nothing untouched. The air is so cold, it feels as if it could freeze the very breath from your lungs. Inside the cave, the heat from the fire is a fragile thing, a flickering promise against the infinite cold outside. But the warmth is fleeting. Every gust that slips through the cracks in the stone is a reminder that nothing here is safe. The cave is more than a shelter. It is a sanctuary from the world's indifference. The walls are rough, uneven, but they offer refuge. Each breath feels thick, filled with the scent of smoke, sweat, and the earthy tang of the damp stone beneath. The fire crackles, its orange light dancing on the jagged walls, offering brief moments of warmth before the cold rushes in again. Its flicker mirrors the souls huddled around it, flickering between hope and despair. Outside, the world is locked in a deep, unyielding winter. The snow falls silently, piling higher with every hour. The cold creeps into the bones, into the marrow, like a slow, suffocating force. It is a reminder of how small they are, how fragile. The night stretches out, heavy and endless, a cold embrace that wraps around everything. There is no sun here, no warmth from above, only the unyielding expanse of ice and snow. The shadows of the cave grow long as the hours wear on, and the fire begins to shrink. The sound of wind howling through the cracks in the cave is all that remains. It becomes a companion, a constant reminder of the world outside, of the wilderness that does not care whether they live or die. The cold does not discriminate. It does not pause to allow a soul to rest. It gnaws at the skin, presses against the chest, sinks deep into the bones, turning warmth into a distant memory. There are no words. There is only silence, broken only by the occasional crack of the fire or the soft shuffle of bodies huddling closer for warmth. Faces are hidden in shadows, expressions indistinct, eyes only glinting in the firelight. There is no space to speak, no room for anything other than survival. The cold fills the space where words would be. Beneath the stone, beneath the firelight, beneath the weight of the winter night, there is an understanding. They are not just surviving the cold. They are becoming a part of it. Their bodies, their souls, are molded by the very chill that seeks to destroy them. Each breath, each heartbeat, is a reminder of the raw fight for life. They cling to the warmth of the fire like a promise of survival, if only for a little while longer. But even the fire has its limits. The wood cracks, burns, fades. Each piece of fuel is a piece of their remaining strength. The last remnants of their previous hunts are burning now, the last of the meat consumed. It is a slow unraveling, a steady retreat into the depths of the cold. The fire flickers, casting long, wavering shadows across the stone. They stare at it, mesmerized, drawn to it, as if it is all they have left. Outside, the world is blanketed in snow, each flake another reminder of the distance between them and the world they once knew. The earth is unyielding, its frozen fingers pressing into the very heart of life itself. There is no escape from it. There is only the struggle against it. The cold is both a predator and a constant companion. It is relentless, a force that does not stop for hunger, for pain, for fatigue. It has no pity. It does not slow its pace, does not offer any reprieve. It seeks to claim, to break down, to erase. And yet, inside this cave, they still hold on. As they sit together, wrapped in whatever furs they can find, their bodies moving slowly with the rhythm of survival, there is something deeper, something unspoken, something that resides in the quiet, in the moment of stillness between breaths. The cold cannot touch that. The fire cannot touch that. It is something that remains, hidden deep within. A drive, a pulse, an instinct that tells them to endure, to fight, to press on despite everything. And so, they wait. They wait for the cold to pass, for the night to end. They wait for something, anything, that will bring warmth again. But in the back of their minds, they know it will not come easily. The cold has already claimed too much. The darkness has already swallowed too many of their memories. The night will not end with the dawn. The cold will not let go until it has taken what it needs. And yet, in the midst of it all, they remain. It is their only victory, their only defiance. Time stretches on, slow and heavy. The fire weakens, its orange glow fading into soft embers. The room grows colder, darker, but still, they wait. The wind howls outside, but they hold their breath, hold the moment, and wait. There is no sun, no light to guide them. Just the crackling of the fire, the quiet rhythm of their breathing, and the cold that will not let go. And still, in the face of it all, they endure. The fire sputters, its once vibrant glow now reduced to a faint, fragile pulse of orange. A single ember floats upward before being swallowed by the darkness, consumed as if it never existed. The crackling sound is the only voice in the cave, the only life left in a world of ice and stillness. The cold presses against the stone walls, its weight heavy, relentless, unyielding. Outside, the storm rages, howling with an intensity that makes the very earth tremble. Inside, the fire dances weakly, its light stretching long shadows that seem to reach for the farthest corners of the cave. The warmth it provides is fleeting, a fragile comfort that cannot last. It is the last thread of life, the last semblance of a world that feels anything but frozen. Around it, they huddle together, their faces barely visible in the dim glow. The shadows blur their features, making them indistinct, like figures carved from the very stone that surrounds them. The air is thick with smoke, curling in slow spirals, filling the lungs with a bitter, ashy scent. Every breath is heavy, laden with the weight of survival. Every movement is slow, deliberate. There is no room for haste in a world that demands patience, that demands endurance. The fire crackles again, a burst of sound that is almost too loud, like a fleeting warning. But there is no time for anything but the silence that follows. The wind outside howls like a beast in its final throes, but here, in this space between the fire and the darkness, there is nothing but stillness. The cold is a presence, a thickening fog that presses down from above, squeezing the warmth from their bodies. But it is not the cold that dominates the air in the cave. No, it is the silence, the absence of movement, of life, except for the slow flicker of flame. The shadows in the corners shift, stretching and contracting, as though the darkness itself is alive. It has no form, no substance, but it is there, creeping across the walls like an inevitable force. It waits. The fire is small, almost insignificant in the face of it, and yet, for a moment, it is enough. It is a small defiance, a tiny act of rebellion against the overwhelming cold and silence that threaten to claim everything. The figures huddled around the fire do not speak. Words are unnecessary now. They are not needed. What can be said in a world where sound no longer matters, where even the sharpest cry would be lost in the wind? There is no need for talk, for explanations. The fire speaks for them, its light casting an almost sacred glow on the faces of those who dare to hold their ground, who dare to sit in this small sanctuary. Every now and then, someone shifts, adjusting their position to stay close to the warmth. A hand is raised to the face, rubbing the cold from the skin, but
that consciousness wasn't separate from the physical world, but was intimately, mysteriously connected to it.
the fire, though small, though fragile, is a promise. It is the last vestige of life in a world that has been turned to ice. And for now, that is enough. The stillness hangs heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. Every breath seems to stretch longer than the last, thick with the taste of ash, the lingering bitterness of smoke that clings to the walls of the cave. The fire, now reduced to a series of embers, burns with a weak, sputtering pulse. Its warmth is fleeting, leaving only the faintest trace of comfort before the cold reclaims the space. Outside, the night presses against the entrance, its icy fingers creeping in through the cracks, reaching for them like the grip of a distant, unknowable force. The wind has quieted, but the storm rages in silence, an invisible force that wraps around everything, curling into every corner of the land, every part of the world. Inside the cave, there is only the crackle of dying embers and the soft, steady rhythm of breathing. The night stretches on endlessly, the hours bleeding into one another, as if time itself has forgotten how to move. There is no way to measure the passage of time here. It has become irrelevant, a concept too foreign to grasp in a world where every moment is defined by the cold and the flickering light of the fire. The dark stretches beyond the cave, beyond the earth itself, a void that no warmth can touch. The shadows, thick and oppressive, gather at the edges of the space, folding in on themselves, creating a cavernous emptiness that seems to consume all sound, all motion, all life. Each breath feels heavier than the last, each movement more deliberate. There is no hurry. There is no sense of urgency. Time is irrelevant when all that matters is survival. The fire, small and fragile, is their only guide, their only source of warmth. It is both a beacon and a whisper, a fleeting sense of peace in a world that no longer seems to remember what peace feels like. The cold seeps in deeper now, pressing against the skin, filling the spaces between the bones. It is not just outside anymore, it is inside too. It grips at the heart, at the lungs, turning every movement into an effort, every breath into a struggle. The world outside is frozen solid, wrapped in ice and snow. The cold has taken it, made it its own, and in here, it is impossible to escape. The darkness presses against the walls, but still, the fire remains. It flickers weakly, its flames curling like delicate wisps of smoke. It is small, fragile, but it is something. It is life, in the purest sense. As they sit around it, bodies close together, drawn to the warmth, there is a quiet understanding between them. There are no words. There are no sounds at all except for the soft hiss of the embers, the quiet crackle that breaks the stillness like the sound of a far-off wave crashing against a distant shore. This silence, deep and profound, is both their enemy and their companion. It is the kind of silence that fills the spaces between thoughts, the silence that presses in on the soul. It is the kind of silence that is thick with exhaustion, with the weight of what has come before and the uncertainty of what is yet to come. Outside, the night has become an endless void, a stretch of cold and darkness that has no beginning and no end. Inside, the warmth of the fire is enough to make the cold seem distant, though it is never fully gone. The fire provides comfort, yes, but it is fleeting, a brief flicker in an otherwise unyielding world. Each time it flickers, they reach closer, trying to hold on to the heat that rises from it. But it is not enough. The night is still too long. The cold is still too deep. The fire, no matter how bright, cannot banish the shadows that stretch across the land. They are silent together, huddled around the fire. Their faces are drawn, their eyes sunken, hollow from days, weeks, maybe longer, of struggling against the cold, of trying to hold on to something, anything, that resembles life. The fire is their last connection to the warmth of the world, the last trace of what once was. The world outside is forgotten, lost in the frost and the wind. But the fire is a reminder. It is fragile, yes, but it is still there. It still burns, however weakly. It still offers warmth, however briefly. And that is all they have. The stillness of the night grows thicker, the air heavier. It feels as though the very cave itself is holding its breath, waiting for something, anything, to change. But there is no change. There is only the cold, only the quiet. The hours slip by in a haze, stretching into infinity, and the fire burns on, fighting back the darkness, if only for a moment. It is all they have. It is enough, for now. The crackle of the fire is the only thing that interrupts the silence. It is the only sound that is left in a world gone still, where even the wind has stopped its howling. But the fire, too, will fade. It always does. The warmth will slip away, and the cold will press in again. But for now, it is here. For now, it gives them something, a fleeting hope, a tiny refuge in the vast darkness. The night presses on. The fire fights back. It is a small victory, a fragile one. But it is enough. They sit in the quiet, in the darkness, surrounded by the shadows. They wait for the night to end, for the cold to pass, for the fire to burn again. But for now, they have this fragile warmth, this fragile light. And that is enough. For tonight, that is enough. The wind slams against the cave, a beast with no form but endless fury. It howls through the cracks, shrieking like a spirit long lost, as if the very earth is trying to tear itself apart. The walls tremble with its weight, and the shadows dance as though they are alive, pulled by the unseen force that claws at the entrance. Each gust is a reminder, an unforgiving message that no place, no shelter, no refuge is truly safe. The cave, which had once seemed a sanctuary, is now nothing more than a hollow shelter against the relentless power of the storm. Inside, they huddle closer together. Each breath feels thicker now, as if the wind itself is trying to steal the air from their lungs. The fire flickers, weak against the onslaught, casting brief flashes of light across their faces, faces drawn and tense, eyes wide with a mix of fear and weariness. The fire cannot hold back the wind. It cannot warm the cold stone walls, nor can it calm the ferocity of the storm outside. The wind roars, a sound so deep, so vast. It is as if it is reaching from another world, from a place where nothing is still and no peace is granted. Every time the wind howls, it presses against them, as if the very air is trying to force its way inside. It is not just the cold they fight against now, but the noise, the force of nature itself, an unrelenting reminder that they are at the mercy of something greater. The wind does not care for their struggle, their efforts to survive. It does not care if they live or die. It simply is, a force that has no pity. The cracks in the stone seem to grow wider with every passing moment, allowing the wind to creep closer, to infiltrate the cave with its icy breath. The air grows colder, the warmth of the fire slipping further away with each gust. There is no protection from it, not in this cave, not in this world. The wind has already won. It has already taken its toll, reminding them with every shriek and every howl that no matter how far they run, no matter how deep they hide, it will always find them. Outside, the storm rages with unrelenting force. The snow falls, thick and suffocating, blanketing everything in a sea of white. The wind carries it across the land, sweeping it into every corner, across every ridge, until the world is nothing but a vast, frozen wasteland. There is nothing alive out there, nothing that can stand against the wind, nothing that can outrun the snow. It moves with purpose, sweeping everything in its path, erasing the signs of life with every gust. Inside the cave, they sit in silence, feeling the wind in their bones. The fire cracks and pops, struggling to survive against the storm's fury. They do not speak. What is there to say? The wind speaks louder than any words could. It is a language of its own, a language that does not care to be understood, a language that only demands submission. The fire flickers weakly, casting long, trembling shadows that stretch across the walls like twisted figures. For a brief moment, the shadows seem to move with the rhythm of the wind, as if they, too, are caught in the storm's grasp. The cold seeps deeper now, not just through the cracks in the stone, but through their very thoughts. The wind presses against them, pressing down on their shoulders, their hearts, as if it is trying to weigh them down, to push them into the ground. The air grows thinner, heavier, harder to breathe. The wind does not stop. It does not relent. It is a force that cannot be reasoned with, a force that cannot be tamed. It is as wild as the land itself, as untamed as the earth that gave birth to it. And here, in this cave, they are trapped, caught in the space between the wind and the fire, between survival and surrender. The wind howls again, its voice rising, a deep, mournful sound that fills every corner of the cave. It echoes through the stone, vibrating in the air like a warning. There is no escape. There is no place safe from it. It is everywhere, and it is everything. It fills the space between their bodies, between their hearts. It invades their minds, whispering doubts, whispering fears, whispering that they are nothing but fragile things, caught in the storm. They draw closer to the fire, closer to each other, as if the warmth might shield them from the wind, as if the proximity to one another could somehow make them less vulnerable. But the wind is not something that can be outrun. It is not something that can be avoided. It is a force that shapes the world, that bends the land to its will. And in this moment, it shapes them. It shapes their fear. It shapes their exhaustion. It shapes their struggle. But still, they endure. The wind howls again, louder this time, shaking the walls of the cave. The fire flickers once more, its light dancing like a fragile heartbeat in the darkness. They sit there, in the midst of the storm, listening to the wind, feeling its presence in every part of their being. They do not speak, but they understand. The storm is outside, yes, but it is inside too. It is in the silence. It is in the stillness. It is in the cold that seeps into their bones, into their souls. And so they wait. They wait for the storm to pass, for the wind to tire, for the night to end. But deep down, they know. It is not the wind that will pass. It is only them who must endure. And the wind will always return, howling, relentless, unyielding. The silence is broken only by the soft shifting of bodies and the crackle of the fire. It is faint, the warmth slipping through their fingers, but it is enough. For now. The flame dances with an almost desperate intensity, casting faint orange light across the cave. Yet even as it flares, it seems to withdraw, leaving only a trace of heat. The warmth it offers is fleeting, like the moments between breaths, like the brief glimmers of daylight before the night falls again. But still, it is something. Still, it is life. Outside, the wind howls, relentless and uncaring. It presses against the cave, pushing at the stone, at the walls, as if the earth itself is trying to shake free from its own frozen bonds. But in here, in this fragile space of warmth, there is still the fire, still the promise of survival, if only for a little while longer. They sit in silence, watching the flames flicker and burn. The embers crackle, pop, and die, but the cold presses in, filling the cave with its unyielding presence. There is no escape from it, no respite. The fire cannot last forever, and they know it. They can feel the last of the fuel slipping away, each crackle a reminder that the warmth will not stay with them much longer. The flame, though small, though weak, is all they have. It is the thread that binds them to life, to hope. And so they sit, still, silent, waiting for the next breath, the next moment of warmth. But the fire is not enough. The night stretches on, cold and endless, and the flame weakens with each passing minute. It is no longer a beacon, but a fragile whisper in the darkness. Each piece of wood that is thrown onto it feels like a lifeline, a single thread between survival and despair. They take turns adding to the fire, each movement measured, deliberate, as if every piece of wood might be the one to keep them from slipping into the cold. It is a delicate balance, one that shifts with every breath, every flicker of light. The need to gather more fuel becomes urgent. The fire cannot survive on the scraps that remain. The cold is too deep, too constant. The shadows grow longer, stretching toward the walls, reaching for the fire as if they too are hungry for warmth. Outside, the storm has not relented. The snow continues to fall in thick, suffocating sheets, a never-ending blanket that covers everything. The wind rages, and the cold presses against the walls of the cave, filling every corner, every crevice. There is no choice but to go. There is no choice but to step out into the night and seek the fuel that will keep the fire alive. It is a risk, a dangerous gamble, but they have no choice. Without the fire, without its warmth, they will not survive. And so, one by one, they rise from the warmth of the fire and step toward the entrance of the cave, their movements slow, measured. The cold is immediate, biting, sharp, like 1,000 needles pricking the skin. But they push forward, into the storm, into the dark, knowing that the fire waits for them. The wind howls, fierce and wild, but they press on. There is no other way. The land outside, is a sea of white. The snow falls in thick, heavy layers, obscuring the path, making every step treacherous. The cold is overwhelming, a weight that presses down on everything. The wind cuts through the layers of clothing, biting at the skin, numbing the fingers, the face, the very bones. Each step is a struggle, each breath a labor. But still they move, driven by the need to gather the fuel that will keep the fire burning. Each piece of wood is a precious thing. Each branch is a lifeline. They do not speak as they work. There is no need for words. The urgency of the task binds them together, a silent understanding that cannot be broken. They move as one, as if their hearts beat in unison, driven by the same need, the same force, the need to survive, to hold on, to fight back against the cold, against the dark. The storm rages around them, but they press forward, their hands raw from the biting cold, their faces numb from the wind. But still, they gather. The fire is waiting. Each piece of wood they find is a small victory. It is a reminder that even in the face of such overwhelming odds, there is still hope. There is still something worth fighting for. The fire, though small, though fleeting, is enough to keep them going. Each piece of fuel they add to it is a thread that binds them to life, to one another. It is a fragile bond, but it is a bond nonetheless. The fire grows brighter as the new fuel is added, its warmth spreading through the cave, reaching the edges of the stone, pushing back the shadows that press against them. For a moment, the cold is forgotten. For a moment, there is only the warmth, the light, the fire. It is enough to keep them alive. It is enough to keep them hopeful. But the moment is fleeting. The fire will not last forever. The storm will not relent. And they know that in the end, they will have to gather again. The need to gather, to endure, to survive, it will never end. But for now, there is warmth. For now, there is life. They sit once more around the fire, each body pressed close to it, drawn to its fragile warmth. The night is still long, the cold still pressing in, but the fire burns brighter now. It is not enough to banish the darkness, but it is enough to keep the shadows at bay. The world outside is a frozen wasteland, but inside the cave there is warmth, there is life, and in that there is hope. For a moment, they rest. They rest in the warmth of the fire, in the strength of the unity they have gathered. But the storm is not over. The night is still young, and the cold will return. But for now, the fire burns, and they have gathered the strength to face it. Together. The cold is not just something that comes from the outside. It does not simply kiss the skin and leave. It presses in, like a shadow that seeps into the bones, that settles deep into the chest. The air inside the cave is thick with it, so cold that it feels like it's pressing against the very soul, like the world is trying to squeeze everything out of them, every last drop of warmth, every last flicker of life. The fire crackles softly, but the warmth it offers feels thin, fragile, as if it, too, knows it is on borrowed time. Each crackle, each flare of orange, is a small rebellion against the weight of the cold that presses in from every direction. The storm outside is unrelenting. The wind howls like an animal in pain, pushing against the stone, bending the trees, tossing snow in every direction. But the storm is not just the wind or the snow. It is the cold itself, the kind that does not stop, that does not relent. It is a constant force, a silent companion that presses down on everything. It does not care about hunger, about the desperate need for warmth, about the will to survive. It simply is. It simply takes. They sit huddled around the fire, as close as they can. But it is not enough. The fire is small, flickering, weak in the face of the overwhelming cold. It offers only a brief, fragile warmth before it is swallowed by the night, by the ice, by the unrelenting grasp of winter. Every breath is heavy, filled with the taste of smoke, the tang of cold, the sharpness of the air. The cold is inside them, in their lungs, in their hearts, and it does not let go. Outside, the world is a frozen wasteland. The snow piles higher, the wind howls louder, and still the night stretches on, without mercy, without end. The storm is no longer something that can be avoided. It is everywhere. It is the world. The cold has claimed it. The ground is solid with ice. The trees are bowed under the weight of snow, and the sky is a heavy, unbroken gray, stretching on endlessly. In the cave, there is a sense of helplessness. The fire is the last barrier between them and the night, between them and the cold that seeks to swallow them whole. The cold is not just a force of nature. It is something deeper, something darker. It is a presence that hangs in the air, that fills the space between them, that presses against their hearts. It is not just the chill in the bones. It is the weight on the spirit, the sense that the world itself is closing in around them, pushing them into a small, confined space where there is no escape. Each breath feels heavier, each movement slower, as if the cold is reaching deeper, settling into their skin, into their minds. The fire, though warm for a moment, cannot drive it away. The cold lingers, a shadow, an enemy that never leaves. There is no sun to break it, no warmth to drive it back. The world has been frozen, and with it, their hope. But still, they sit by the fire. Still, they hold on. They do not speak of the cold, of how it makes their bodies ache, of how it presses against them like a constant weight. There are no words for it, no way to explain the feeling that drapes itself over the heart, that makes each movement feel like a struggle. The cold is inside them now, inside their thoughts, inside their hearts. And it is not just something to be endured. It is something that has become a part of them, a constant companion, a shadow that will not leave. They draw closer to the fire, their bodies pressed together for warmth, but it is not enough. The fire flickers, the shadows grow longer, and the cold presses in again. It is relentless, a constant reminder of how small they are in the face of nature, in the face of the world that has turned against them. But still, they hold on. Still, they gather strength. It is not the warmth of the fire that keeps them going, but the sheer will to survive. Outside, the storm rages. The wind howls through the trees, pushing against the earth, shaping the land with its fury. The cold wraps itself around everything, binding the world in its icy grip. But inside, in this small cave, they find a flicker of defiance. The fire may not be enough to defeat the cold, but it is a light in the darkness. It is a thread of warmth, of life, that they hold on to, even as the cold tries to take everything from them. Each day is a struggle. Each moment is a fight against the cold, against the shadows that creep in from the outside. But still, they endure. The cold may press against them, may sink deeper into their skin, but they do not give in. They gather strength from the fire, from each other. In the silence of the cave, in the stillness of the night, they find a bond that cannot be broken. They are not alone. Not yet. The night wears on. The cold grows deeper, but so does their resolve. The storm rages outside, but inside, the fire burns on, weak but alive. It is not enough to banish the cold, but it is something. It is hope. And in this world of endless winter, that is all they have. The air is still. thick with a silence that seems to hold its breath. For a moment, it feels as though time has paused, as if the world itself is waiting for something to break, something to change. And then, a single flake drifts down from the sky, so light it could almost be mistaken for a wisp of smoke. It lands on the stone, silent, unhurried, but as quickly as it falls, another follows, and then another, and soon, the air is thick with them. The first snow. It is soft at first, gentle, almost delicate, like the whisper of a secret carried on the wind. It coats the ground with a thin layer of white, almost as if the world is being covered with a blanket, a layer of softness to mask the harshness of what is to come. The fire flickers, the embers crackling softly in the quiet, as if it too feels the change, feels the weight of what is happening outside, just beyond the entrance of the cave. The snow falls steadily now, its descent no longer hesitant but assured, gathering in the corners of the cave, drifting past the entrance. It is no longer a gentle thing, no longer a soft kiss of winter. The wind picks up, howling with fury, pushing the snow in all directions, swirling it into a frenzy. What had been soft and peaceful just moments before becomes a storm, a fierce, relentless force that seems to swallow the land whole. The first snow has come, and with it comes the harsh realization. The land itself has chosen a side in this battle for survival. The cold presses in again, seeping deeper into the cave, creeping into the bones, into the marrow. There is no escaping it now. The storm outside is no longer a distant thing. It is here. It is real. The snow falls in thick, heavy sheets, and the wind howls in a way that shakes the very earth. The fire flickers, its light pushing against the darkness, but even it seems small in the face of what is happening outside. The warmth it offers is fleeting, like the briefest reprieve from the storm. They huddle closer to the fire, pressing their bodies together, seeking what warmth they can find in the flickering light. But the reality of the storm is impossible to ignore. The first snow has come, and with it, the full weight of winter. It is no longer something that can be pushed aside, no longer something that can be ignored. The cold is here, the storm is here, and they are trapped in it, caught between the fire and the unrelenting force of nature. The snow continues to fall, thick and heavy. It piles higher with each passing minute, a blanket of white that covers everything, that erases everything in its path. The land, once familiar, now seems foreign, blanketed by the frost, swallowed by the storm. The snow is not just a thing that falls from the sky. It is a force that has claimed the land, that has claimed the world outside the cave. Inside, the cold becomes unbearable. The fire is not enough to fight back the weight of the storm. The warmth it offers is not enough to stave off the bite of the wind, the press of the snow. The cold presses in from all sides, slipping under the door, through the cracks in the stone, filling the air with its biting presence. The warmth of the fire is no longer a comfort. It is a fleeting thing, a small, fragile light in a world that has been consumed by darkness. They are not alone in this battle. The snow has claimed the world, and with it, their hope, their warmth. The storm is here to stay. There is no turning back now. But even in the face of this realization, there is a sense of quiet resilience. They do not speak of it, do not acknowledge the weight of the storm that presses down on them, but there is an understanding in the air, a shared knowledge that the fight is far from over, that this is just the beginning. The first snow has fallen, and with it, the harshest of winters has arrived. But still, they endure. They gather closer, holding on to the warmth of the fire, holding on to each other, knowing that the storm may rage outside, but inside, they are not alone. The snow falls, thick and heavy, filling the night with its quiet, relentless presence. The storm rages, howling with the fury of a world that has been turned upside down. The fire flickers, struggling to hold its own against the cold, but it does not go out. Not yet. For now, it is enough. It is a thread of warmth in a world that has been swallowed by winter, and that for now is enough. But as the snow falls, as the storm continues its assault, there is no doubt that the battle is only beginning. The first snow has come, and with it, the knowledge that they are at war, with the land, with the storm, with winter itself. And in this battle, there will be no easy victory, only survival, only the will to endure. For a moment, the cold is gone. It slips away almost unnoticed, as though it never truly had a hold. The air stirs, and for the briefest of moments, the cave feels different. The fire crackles louder, its flames rising higher, brighter, flickering, as though alive. A warmth spreads, creeping slowly outward, filling the cave, pushing against the walls, sweeping across their chilled skin. It is a soft breath of life after a long silence, a fleeting touch of peace, delicate and rare. It feels like a promise. The flames dance with purpose, glowing with a steady, almost desperate intensity. Each flicker, each crackle of the fire's heart is a small defiance against the cold that still lingers just beyond the edges of the cave. The light grows stronger, pushing back against the shadows that have held them captive for so long. For a moment, there is nothing but the warmth of the fire, nothing but the promise that, for now, they are safe. The world outside may still rage, may still howl and freeze and threaten to consume them. But here, in this small circle of light, there is a pause. Their bodies, once tense and stiff from the cold, begin to relax. Slowly, carefully, they shift closer to the fire, drawn toward its heat like moths to a flame. Each movement is slow, careful, as though they are unsure how long this moment will last. It feels fragile, like a dream that could be swept away in an instant. But still, they sit there, basking in the warmth, letting it seep into their bones, letting it fill the spaces where the cold once clung. The cave, which had been nothing more than a refuge from the storm, now feels like a home, if only for this moment. The fire stretches higher, casting its light across the stone, reaching the farthest corners of the cave, pushing back the darkness. For a brief time, the shadows are kept at bay, the warmth spreading like a quiet promise, like a soft sigh of relief in a world that has long known only struggle. The silence is broken only by the steady crackling of the flames, the faint hiss as the fire dances, the sound that tells them they are still alive, still holding on. It is a momentary peace, a fleeting warmth, but it is enough. For now, it is enough. They lean in, close to the fire, their faces illuminated by the soft orange glow, their eyes reflecting the light as if they are trying to hold on to it, to capture it, to make it last. The world outside is still frozen, still unforgiving. But here, inside, there is life. There is warmth. There is hope. But the moment, as all moments do, begins to slip away. The flames flicker and wane, their warmth beginning to recede as quickly as it arrived. The fire grows smaller, dimmer, its strength weakening with every passing second. The cold, though momentarily beaten back, has not left. It waits, it lingers, ready to reclaim what it had briefly lost. The shadows creep back into the corners, inching toward the fire's edge, slowly swallowing the warmth that once spread so freely. They watch as the fire dwindles, its warmth slipping from their skin, retreating like an unwelcome guest. The flames no longer leap with the same intensity. Instead, they bend low, their light dimming as the embers burn out, one by one. The air grows thick again, heavy with the quiet presence of the cold. It presses in from the edges of the cave, slowly wrapping around them once more. It feels like the world is slowly closing in, pressing in on them, taking away the peace, taking away the warmth. There is a strange stillness now, the kind that only comes when something precious has been lost. The fire, though still burning, is weak, its glow faint. The warmth, though lingering, is now fleeting, like a memory slipping from grasp. The shadows stretch longer once more, as if they know that the fire cannot hold back the night forever. And yet, even in the face of this, they do not move. They sit still, waiting for the fire to rise again, waiting for the warmth to return. They know that the cold will return, that the peace they have found will not last. But for now, they cling to it. For now, they hold on to the brief flicker of warmth that they have found. The fire is small now, barely more than a whisper, but it still burns. It still fights. It is weak, but it is still there. And in that, there is a lesson. The cold may press in, the storm may rage, but the fire will always rise again, even if only for a moment. It is fragile, like everything in this world, but it is also resilient, refusing to be completely consumed by the darkness. It is a reminder that even in the face of the harshest cold, there is always something, however small, that will fight to stay alive. And in this world, in this fight for survival, that is enough. The warmth may be fleeting, but it is enough to keep the cold at bay for just a little while longer. It is enough to remind them that they are not yet defeated. The battle is not over. The storm will not last forever. And for now, the fire still burns. The snow crunches beneath their feet, sharp and unforgiving, a sound that echoes through the still air like a distant drumbeat. The wind stirs again, colder now, biting through every layer of clothing, biting into the skin like 1,000 tiny daggers. The land stretches out before them, a vast empty expanse of white where the horizon is swallowed by the storm, and the only landmarks are the jagged outlines of trees bowed under the weight of the snow. The world is still, silent, too silent. It is a quiet that holds its breath, waiting, and in that stillness lies the tension of the hunt. The hunt is not just a necessity here. It is a ritual, an ancient dance with life and death. They do not speak as they move, their bodies close together, synchronized by years of instinct and necessity. Every footfall is calculated, measured, a silent decision between survival and the abyss. The cold gnaws at them, presses against their faces, their hands, but they do not falter. The wind howls, but it is a distant thing now, a force beyond their reach. Here, in this frozen wasteland, the only thing that matters is what lies ahead, the chase, the prey, the sustenance that will keep them alive, if only for a little while longer. The snow, thick and heavy, makes each step feel like a struggle, as though the earth itself is resisting them. But they press on, moving with quiet determination, the weight of the world on their shoulders. Each step brings them closer to the hunt, closer to the possibility of survival. And yet the danger is never far. The land itself is a predator, just as much as the creatures that roam it. Every turn of the wind, every shift in the landscape, is a reminder that they are not the only ones here. The cold is always watching, The world is always waiting for them to falter, to make a mistake. The air is thick with the scent of snow, of ice, of the wildness that fills the world beyond the cave. There is no sign of life here, no trace of any creature that might offer the sustenance they need. Only the wind and the snow, only the promise of the hunt and the weight of the cold. But still, they move. Still, they press forward. The hunt is not something that can be bargained with. It is not a matter of choice. It is survival, pure and simple. And then, a movement, a flicker just at the edge of their vision. It is brief, a shadow against the snow, but it is enough. They stop. The world holds its breath once more. The hunt has begun. There, just ahead, in the distant mist of the storm, the silhouette of an animal emerges. A figure dark against the whiteness, its movement sleek, almost imperceptible. It is a deer, a creature of the land, of the snow. The chase is on. The hunt is no longer a distant thought, no longer a matter of patience. It is now a matter of life and death. Every step, every breath is a choice. The animal moves with the grace of one who knows it is being hunted, its body sleek and swift, its movements calculated. It does not hesitate. Neither do they. They move forward as one, bodies shifting, hands ready, eyes locked onto the animal ahead. Every muscle is taut with anticipation, with instinct, with the primal knowledge that this is the only thing that matters now. There is no room for fear, no room for doubt, only the hunt, only the moment of truth that will determine whether they survive or not. The snow is deep, the land treacherous, but still, they press on. The hunt is always a balance between quiet patience and the sudden explosive burst of action. Every footfall, every shift of the wind is part of the dance. The animal knows it is being hunted, but it does not know how close they are. It does not know that they are nearly upon it. The air grows colder still, the wind biting deeper, but their focus does not waver. They move in synchrony, their bodies a reflection of each other's movements. The moment is coming. Every heartbeat echoes in their ears, every breath sharp in the cold air. The animal pauses, as if it too feels the shift, the change in the rhythm of the world. Its eyes dart nervously, its body taut with the same tension that has gripped them. And then, with a sudden rush, the chase begins. There is no hesitation now, no thought, only the chase. The world narrows, the snow blurs. Every step is a choice. The air grows thick with the pounding of feet, with the sound of breath cutting through the storm. The fire of instinct burns within them, urging them forward, urging them closer. The prey moves fast, but they are faster. The distance closes, the gap between life and death shrinking with every step. But the land is treacherous, and the cold is an unyielding force. The snow is deep, the wind howls, and each step feels like it could be the last. But there is no turning back. There is no room for hesitation. There is only the hunt, only the fight for survival. The animal veers off, its path erratic now, driven by fear, driven by instinct, just as they are. But it is too late. The gap closes. The moment arrives. With one final desperate burst of speed, they close the distance. The world narrows into a single point, and then, with a swift movement, the chase ends. The animal falls, its body still, the snow around it turning red. The hunt is over. The struggle is won. For now. They stand over the fallen creature, their breath ragged, their bodies trembling from the effort, from the cold. The storm still rages around them, the wind howling, the snow falling in thick sheets. But for a moment, there is stillness. A brief, fragile silence as they look down at the prize of their hunt, the proof of their survival. The world feels suspended in time, as if it too is waiting to see what happens next. The cold presses in again, the wind biting at their exposed skin, but they do not move. Not yet. They have won this battle. For now, they have the warmth of life, the promise of sustenance. The hunt has brought them through another day. They do not speak. They do not need to. The land, the cold, the storm, none of it has claimed them yet. For now, they stand victorious, and in this fleeting moment, there is peace. There is survival. The night presses in, heavier now, its silence thick and suffocating. The storm rages outside, howling with the fury of a world that knows no mercy. The wind slams against the cave, its icy fingers reaching in through every crack, every opening, determined to snuff out the warmth that remains. The cold claims the world beyond, a relentless force that sweeps across the land, leaving nothing untouched, nothing spared. But here, in this small, fragile space, the fire still burns. The warmth flickers like a heartbeat, a pulse in the darkness. The fire is a defiance, a quiet rebellion against the storm that rages just beyond the stone walls. It dances in the darkness, its flames rising and falling, casting long shadows that stretch across the cave like twisted figures. Each flicker, each burst of light is a small victory against the overwhelming cold. The warmth it offers is fleeting, a brief respite in a world of ice, but for now, it is enough. It is all they have, and it is enough. Around the fire they huddle closer, drawn to its warmth like moths to a flame. Their faces are lit by the soft glow, their eyes reflecting the fire's light, their bodies trembling with exhaustion. The cold is never far. It presses against them, fills the spaces between their bodies. But here, in this moment, the fire is the heart of the cave. It is their anchor, their connection to life, to the warmth of the world they once knew. Without it, they would be lost, consumed by the storm, swallowed by the night. The wind howls outside, but inside, there is stillness. The fire crackles, its orange light flickering against the dark, and for a moment, the world seems smaller, more manageable. The shadows are pushed back, and the cave feels like a sanctuary. The warmth from the fire spreads, soothing their chilled bones, filling the space with a sense of comfort, of safety. It is a brief, fragile peace, but it is peace nonetheless. In the face of the storm, in the face of the cold that threatens to tear the world apart, the fire stands firm. The flames rise higher, crackling, dancing in the dark. The fire is not just warmth, it is life. It is a force that refuses to be extinguished, no matter how fierce the wind outside becomes. The shadows flicker and stretch, twisting in the firelight, but the fire does not falter. It burns with a quiet intensity, a defiance against the cold, against the darkness that presses in from all sides. It is a small thing, fragile and fleeting, but it is a force of life, a force that pushes back against the night. As the fire burns, their bodies begin to relax. The tension in their shoulders, the ache in their limbs, begins to ease, if only for a moment. The warmth of the fire seeps into them, spreading through their bodies, a comfort they can hold on to in a world that seems determined to take everything from them. The fire is their lifeline, the one thing they can trust in a world that has turned against them. It is their rebellion against the cold, their defiance against the storm. But even as they sit around it, even as they draw closer to the warmth, they know that the fire will not last forever. It is fleeting, a momentary comfort in a world that is cold and unyielding. The logs crackle and pop, the flames rise higher, but they are also shrinking, burning down to ash. The warmth will fade, the shadows will return, the cold will press back in, and the night will stretch on. But for now, the fire still burns, and that is enough. The cave grows quiet, save for the sound of the fire's crackling, the occasional shift of bodies as they settle closer to the warmth. They do not speak. There is no need for words. The fire speaks for them. It is a language of survival, a language of defiance, a language that does not need words to be understood. They are here, together, huddled around the flame, drawing strength from its warmth. And in this small moment, they are alive. They are surviving. Outside, the storm rages on, the wind howling louder, the snow falling in thick sheets, blanketing the land in a layer of ice. The cold is relentless, unforgiving. But inside, the fire still burns. It flickers and dances, its warmth spreading through the cave, filling the space with light, with life. For a moment, the world feels smaller, safer. The shadows retreat, and the cold is kept at bay. The fire is not just a thing, it is a symbol, a mark of resilience, a small rebellion against the forces that seek to destroy them. As they sit in the firelight, the weight of the world seems to fade. The storm outside is distant, a thing they can no longer touch. Here, in the warmth of the cave, the fire is all that matters. It is a thread that ties them to life, a thread that holds them steady in the face of the storm. The fire flickers once more, its light dimming, but they do not move. They know it will not last forever. They know the cold will return. But for now, it is enough. For now, the fire still burns. And in that light, in that warmth, they find the strength to endure. The night is long, and the cold is coming. But for now, the fire is enough. It is all they need. The wind is a living thing, wild and untamed, howling against the entrance of the cave with a ferocity that seems to shake the earth itself. It presses against the stone like a constant, unyielding force, searching for cracks, for weak points to break through. The storm rages beyond the cave's threshold, snow falling in heavy sheets, the cold pressing in from all sides, wrapping the world in a frozen grip. The night is long, stretching endlessly in the wake of the storm, a heavy weight that settles over everything, filling the air with a deep, unspoken tension. The world outside is a chaos of wind and snow, a blizzard that seeks to consume everything in its path. But inside, here in the cave, there is warmth. The fire crackles softly, its orange light flickering in the darkness, casting long, dancing shadows across the rough stone walls. The heat it gives is fragile, a small pulse of life against the raging storm. But it is enough. It is all they have. They huddle around it, pressed close together, their bodies warmed by the fire's embrace, drawn together like a family in the face of the world's indifference. The fire flickers, its flames swaying gently, fighting to hold their ground against the cold that presses in from every side. The storm is relentless, but inside there is shelter. The wind howls, the snow pounds against the cave like a steady, ceaseless drum, but here, in this small space, they are safe. For now. The fire is their defiance, their quiet resistance to the storm's power. It is a flicker of light, a thread of warmth in a world where everything seems determined to freeze. The cold outside is a force that cannot be tamed, that cannot be reasoned with, but inside, the fire is something they can control. They are not completely at the mercy of the storm. Not yet. The heat from the fire spreads, filling the cave, pushing back the chill that has seeped into the stone, into their bones. They sit in its glow, the warmth wrapping around them like a blanket, offering a small piece of peace amidst the chaos. The flames crackle again, sending a brief burst of light across their faces, their eyes reflecting the fire's orange glow. Their faces, once drawn and tired, now carry a faint sense of relief, of quiet comfort. The warmth is temporary, fleeting, but it is enough to hold the storm at bay for a moment. They do not speak. There is no need for words. The silence between them is full, rich with the understanding that the warmth they share now is a gift, fragile and fleeting, but precious all the same. The fire's light is a language of its own, one that speaks of survival, of unity, of shared strength. The warmth they feel is not just from the fire. It is the bond between them, the shared space, the shared struggle to survive in a world that has grown cold and indifferent. Outside, the storm rages on. The wind howls, the snow falls relentlessly, and the world outside is swallowed by the blizzard. The cold presses in, a constant reminder of how close they are to the edge, to the brink of being consumed by it. But inside, here, they have the fire. They have each other. The warmth they share is enough to push back the darkness, to create a small space of safety in a world that feels so dangerous. The storm outside cannot reach them here. Not yet. They sit close together, drawn by the need for warmth, the need for the connection that comes from sharing this space, this small act of defiance against the overwhelming cold. Their bodies are pressed close, the heat of the fire making the air feel thick, heavy, almost too warm. But they do not move away. The fire is not enough to banish the cold completely, but it is enough to keep the shadows at bay, enough to keep the world from consuming them. The storm rages outside, but here, inside the cave, they have found shelter. The wind may howl, the snow may fall in thick sheets, but they are not alone. The warmth of the fire, the shared warmth between them, is enough to face the cold, to face the storm. In this small act of shelter, they find strength to hold on, to keep going. The fire may flicker, may weaken in the face of the storm, but it will not go out completely. Not while they are here, not while they hold on to each other. The hours stretch on, and the storm does not relent. It howls with an intensity that fills the air, presses in on them from every side. But the fire burns steadily, a quiet defiance against the night. It is not the warmth of the sun, but it is enough. It is a small victory against the overwhelming power of nature. It is a promise, fragile and fleeting, that they can survive, even in the face of the storm. The fire burns on, its light flickering in the darkness, its warmth spreading through the cave, offering shelter in the heart of the storm. They huddle close together, sharing the warmth, sharing the fire. And in this small moment, they find a kind of peace. The storm rages outside, but here, in this small protected space, they are safe. For now. The fire is their rebellion against the cold. Their shared warmth is a defiance against the storm, and for a fleeting moment, that is enough. The darkness is thick, a suffocating weight that presses down on them from all sides. It wraps around them like a cloak, its cold tendrils creeping into every corner of the cave, filling the air with a quiet, oppressive weight. The storm outside has subsided, but the night still clings to the world, an endless stretch of blackness that has no beginning and no end. The fire flickers weakly in the center of the cave, casting long, trembling shadows that stretch out across the stone walls, its light flickering and waning, but never fully going out. The warmth it provides is a thin thread, barely enough to push back the heavy weight of the darkness. Every movement, every breath feels heavier now, as if the world itself is pressing in, pulling them closer to the void. The fire is the only thing that holds the darkness at bay. Without it, the night would swallow them whole, would devour every shred of warmth, of light, of life. The fire is the thin line between them and the void that waits just beyond, the only barrier between them and the suffocating cold that lies in the depths of the world. They huddle close to the fire, drawn to its warmth like moths to a flame. The light dances in the darkness, casting their faces in soft, flickering shadows. Their eyes are wide, alert, as if every movement of the flame, every crackle of the fire, might be the last. They do not speak. There is no need for words. The fear is palpable, thick in the air like smoke, but they do not move. They hold their breath, waiting, as if the fire is the last thing they can rely on. It is the last vestige of hope in a world that seems determined to take everything from them. The cold presses in, creeping along the walls, curling around their bodies like a whispering enemy, a reminder that the fire will not last forever. It is only a matter of time before the embers burn out, before the light fades completely, and the darkness will come rushing back in, sweeping them into its cold, silent embrace. The flame flickers again, its light stretching long across the cave, but it is a momentary thing, a fragile thing, and the shadows grow longer, darker, closer. The darkness does not care for their fear, for their struggle. It is an inevitable thing, a part of the world, a force that moves with slow, deliberate certainty. Still, the fire holds on. Its light trembles, its warmth falters, but it does not go out. Not yet. It is a small rebellion against the darkness, a quiet defiance in the face of something so vast, so unstoppable. The cold outside may press against them, the storm may rage beyond the cave, but here, in this moment, they are not alone. The fire burns, and it is enough to keep the shadows at bay. For now, it is enough to push back the void that threatens to engulf them. The fire is the only thing that separates them from the nothingness, the silence, the fear that waits just outside. The fear is real. It hangs in the air, a thick, oppressive presence that makes every breath feel heavy, every heartbeat louder. The darkness is a constant threat, a silent presence that presses in from all sides, creeping along the edges of the fire's glow. It is a reminder of how fragile they are, how small they are in the face of the vastness of the world, of the storm, of the endless night. The fire may be strong now, but it is fleeting. It is a small thing, a tiny spark in the face of a world that wants to swallow it whole. The shadows are already creeping forward, inching closer, waiting for the moment when the flame finally dies, when the darkness can consume them once more. But even in the face of this, they do not move. They sit, drawn close to the fire, their bodies huddled together in a quiet resolve. They are not ready to give in to the darkness. Not yet. The fear is real, but so is the fire. The warmth it provides is enough to hold the cold at bay for just a little longer. The light is enough to push back the shadows, to remind them that they are not yet consumed by the void. For now, that is enough. For now, they are alive, and the fire is enough to keep the darkness at bay. The fire crackles again, its light brightening for a moment before it fades once more. The shadows stretch longer, moving closer to the heart of the cave, but the fire remains. It is a defiance, a quiet protest against the world outside, against the storm, against the cold, against the darkness. It is a small thing, but it is enough to hold the fear at bay. to hold the void at arm's length for just a little longer. As they sit there, watching the flame flicker and dance in the dark, there is a sense of shared understanding. They do not speak, but they know. They know that the fire is fragile, that it will not last forever. But they also know that as long as it burns, they have something. They have hope. They have warmth. They have light. And as long as the fire holds, they will not surrender to the darkness. They will not let it consume them. The wind howls outside, the storm raging still. But inside, they are safe. For now, the darkness may press in from all sides, but the fire holds strong. It is a small thing, but it is enough. Enough to keep the shadows at bay. Enough to keep them alive. Enough to remind them that they are not alone. That they are still here, still fighting, still surviving. The fire is their rebellion, their defiance against the world that would swallow them whole. And for as long as it burns, they will continue to fight. They will continue to live. Each breath is a cloud now. It escapes their lungs in thick, visible bursts, hanging in the air before dissipating into the cold. The warmth that once felt like a gentle companion is now a distant, fading memory. The fire crackles weakly in the corner, its light flickering, as if it, too, struggles against the relentless press of the cold. The wind outside has subsided, but the cold has taken hold in the very bones of the cave. It clings to the walls, to the air, to them, so invasive, so intimate. The heat from the fire is no longer a comfort. It is a fragile thread, wavering in the dark, as fleeting as the warmth in their chests. The fire's glow is distant now, its warmth unable to stretch far enough to break through the chill that coats their skin. They huddle together, their faces drawn, their bodies trembling in the dim light. It's not just the cold that seeps in, it's something deeper, a quiet heaviness that wraps around them, that seeps into their thoughts, into their very breath. The cold is no longer just external. It is inside them now, in their lungs, in their hearts. They can feel it in the way their breath shudders, in the way their limbs ache, in the way the cold wraps itself tightly around them. Every inhalation is labored, each exhale hanging like a fragile mist in the air. It is as if the very act of breathing has become a struggle, each breath a small battle against the suffocating weight of the cold. They can see the mist, the vapor rising from their mouths, curling in the air and fading almost as quickly as it forms. There is no warmth here, not in the air, not in the stone, not in the fire that burns so weakly. There is only the cold, lingering, pressing against them from all sides, wrapping around them like a tight, unyielding cloak. The fire offers a small comfort, but it is a fleeting one. Its crackling light dances on the walls, casting jagged shadows that stretch and writhe, mocking the fragile warmth that it gives. It is the only thing they have left, the only solace in a world that has grown so cold. But even the fire cannot hold back the darkness entirely. It is a small act of defiance, flickering and dancing against the vastness of the cold, and it is all they can rely on. The fire burns, but its warmth is fading, and with it, so too does the illusion of safety. They sit closer now, bodies pressed together, not just for warmth, but for the comfort of shared vulnerability. In the stillness, in the quiet of the cave, they can hear the sharpness of their breath, feel the tremors in their bodies, the vulnerability in their exposed skin. They have become so aware of the cold, so attuned to its presence, that even the smallest shiver feels like an earthquake. Each tremor is a reminder of how fragile they are, how exposed, how deeply the world has shifted beneath them. The fire, small and fragile, is the only thing that keeps them tethered to the present, to the flickering promise of warmth, of light. The stillness in the cave is heavy with introspection. They do not speak, not because there is nothing to say, but because there is nothing left that can be said. Words have become as fleeting as the breath in the air. What is there to say when every thought is consumed by the cold, when every action is a struggle against it? They do not look at one another. Their gazes are cast downward, focused on the flames, on the only source of warmth they have left. Each of them is lost in their own thoughts, wrapped in their own private awareness of the cold, of the vulnerability that it brings. Their minds race with the understanding that they are so small in the face of it, so fragile, so easily swept away by the vast, unrelenting power of the world around them. The fire crackles again, sending a soft ripple of light across the stone, casting long shadows that stretch like ghosts into the corners of the cave. It is a small thing, that fire, a weak thing, flickering in the face of a world that has turned so cold. But it is all they have, and it is enough to hold the darkness at bay, if only for a little longer, enough to remind them that they are still here, still holding on, still fighting the quiet, invisible war against the cold that seeks to claim them. And yet, even as the warmth fades and the shadows stretch longer, there is a quiet resolve that fills the air, a resolve born from the shared understanding that the fire is their only refuge, their only hope. They do not speak of it, but they know. They know that the fire is their lifeline, the one thing that separates them from the void, from the darkness and the cold that will consume them if they let it. They hold their breath, waiting for the fire to rise again, for the warmth to return, even as they know it will not. The fire, fragile as it is, will not last forever. It cannot. But for now, they will hold tight to it, to the warmth that it gives, to the hope that it offers. Each breath is a reminder of how fleeting life is, how delicate it is in the face of the world's indifferent power. The cold is everywhere, inside them, outside them, in the very air they breathe. It is a shadow that wraps around them, a weight they cannot shake. But still, they breathe. Still, they sit in the flickering light of the fire, holding on to the warmth, to the fragile promise that they are not yet consumed by the darkness. The cold presses in, but the fire holds, and for now, that is enough. The wind has fallen silent, as if the earth itself has exhaled, allowing the world to pause. The storm outside, which had once raged with such fury, now seems a distant memory, its howls muted by the stillness that has settled over the cave. The air is calm, and with that calm, a fleeting peace has arrived. The only sound is the soft crackling of the fire, its warmth flickering in the quiet, the flames stretching higher, casting long, wavering shadows that reach across the stone walls. The shadows stretch and shift, telling stories of those who came before, of lives lived and lost in the very same light. For a brief moment, there is no struggle, no fight against the cold, no pressing weight of the storm. There is only the fire, its glow soft and steady, and the stillness that hangs in the air, thick with reflection. The warmth of the flames spreads slowly through the cave, filling the space with a comforting embrace, a gentle reminder of the simple, fragile peace that can still exist, even in the midst of a world that has been so cold. They sit in silence, their faces drawn in the flickering light, their eyes lost in the dancing flames. The fire tells them no stories, but it whispers, soft and quiet, as if it knows that in this moment, nothing else matters. The storm has passed, the cold has retreated, and for just a little while, they can breathe, they can rest. The shadows stretch long on the walls, not threatening, not reaching, but lingering, silent witnesses to the quiet peace that now surrounds them. They do not speak. There is nothing to say. There is only the warmth, the light, the fire that burns steadily, filling the space with its gentle rhythm. In the stillness, the quiet becomes heavy. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper, something unspoken. They are not alone. They never have been. The stories of those who came before, of the lives once lived in this very place, linger in the air. The fire speaks their names without uttering a word. It is not the stories of struggle, of hardship, of survival that fill the silence. No, it is something quieter, something softer, the memory of life, of moments lived without fear of the cold, without the weight of survival pressing down on every breath. For a moment, those stories are alive again, flickering in the firelight, reaching out to them. The cave, once cold and empty, now feels full of warmth, of light, of presence. The shadows tell tales of those who sat in the same circle, huddled close to the fire, their faces illuminated by its flickering glow. The wind, now still, no longer rages at the entrance. The storm, for the time being, is gone. All that remains is this moment, this small, fragile slice of peace that they hold onto, knowing it will not last. The air is thick with the weight of that knowledge, the understanding that peace is fleeting, that it will pass as the night stretches on, as the storm gathers strength once more. But for now, the stillness is enough. It is enough to sit in the firelight, to feel the warmth on their skin, to listen to the quiet dance of the flames. It is enough to breathe, to rest, to close their eyes for just a moment and remember that there was a time when the world was not so cold, when the fire did not feel like the only thing keeping them alive. For a brief moment, the past feels as close as the present, the memories of those who lived and died here filling the air with their presence. Their stories are not lost. They are held in the firelight, in the shadows that stretch across the walls. It is as if the fire has become a bridge between them and the past, a connection to those who endured the same cold, the same darkness. It is not a grand connection. It is quiet, simple, and fleeting, like the fire's own light. But it is real, and for this moment, it is enough. The fire flickers, casting a gentle glow on the stone, on the faces of those gathered around it. Their eyes are closed, their bodies still, and for once, they do not feel the weight of the cold, the weight of the storm. There is no struggle, no need to fight for warmth, for survival. There is only this moment, this one fragile moment of peace. It is not long, and they know it will pass. But for now, it is enough. It is enough to feel the warmth of the fire, to listen to the crackling of the flames, to rest in the quiet that fills the cave. Outside, the wind begins to stir again, soft at first, but growing steadily in strength. The storm is not over. The cold is never far. But for now, they are safe. For now, the fire holds. It is a small thing, a brief flicker of light in the vast darkness, but it is enough to remind them that they are not alone. They are here, together, and for just a moment, they are at peace. The stories of the past, the stories of those who came before, are alive again, flickering in the firelight. They are part of the same fire, part of the same warmth. The moment is fleeting, but it is enough to remind them that they too are part of something greater, something that has survived the darkness and the cold. The fire crackles again, its light fading as the wind stirs once more. But for a moment, the shadows are still, the warmth is enough, and the world outside is forgotten. They sit together in the silence, in the peace, and for just a little while longer, they are not consumed by the storm. They are not lost in the darkness. They are here, together, and that is enough. The cold is no longer something they battle against. It is a part of them now, woven into their very being. It runs through their veins like the pulse of the earth, a constant, unyielding force. It lingers in their bones, deep and heavy, inescapable. It is not an enemy they can defeat. It is not a foe that will leave them once they have won. The cold is a part of the land, a part of the air, a part of their survival. They no longer fight it with the same desperation, the same fury. They have come to accept it, to understand that the cold will never fully leave, and yet neither will they. They have become creatures of this land now. The ice, the wind, the storm. They have all shaped them, molded them into something different from who they once were. Their skin is harder now, their muscles stronger, their minds sharper. They have learned the rhythm of the cold, the language of the storm. They know the signs, the subtle shifts in the air, the way the snow falls, the way the wind moves. They have learned to read the land, to listen to it, to survive it. It is no longer a fight. It is simply endurance. They endure the cold, not because they are stronger, not because they can conquer it, but because they have learned to live with it. The storm will not stop. The cold will never fully release its grip on the world. But neither will they. They are the land now. They are shaped by it, as it is shaped by them. And in this harsh, unforgiving world, that is enough. They sit in silence, around the fire, their faces lit by the warm glow of the flames. The warmth is fleeting, just as the fire's light is fleeting, but it is enough to remind them that they are here, still. Their eyes are focused on the fire, but their minds are elsewhere, lost in thought. They do not speak. Words feel unnecessary, almost foreign in this world. What is there to say? The cold speaks for them. The wind speaks for them. The land itself speaks for them. They have learned the language of survival, the language of endurance. They endure because they have no choice. They endure because it is what has kept them alive. The storm is always there, waiting, pressing against them, reminding them of their fragility, of how easily they could be consumed by the world. But it is also there, in its own way, reminding them of their strength. It is the cold that has shaped them, that has forced them to become something more than what they once were. They are no longer just survivors. They are creatures of the land, of the ice, of the wind. They are bound to it, and in return, it has made them strong. The fire flickers again, its light casting long shadows across the cave. The warmth it offers is a fragile thing, barely enough to hold back the cold that presses in from every corner, but it is enough to remind them that they are still here. They are still living, still breathing, still holding on. The cold has not taken them, not yet, and it will not, because they have learned how to endure. They have learned how to survive, not by fighting, but by accepting. The cold is a part of them now, as much as the fire, as much as the warmth of their bodies pressed close together. It is not an enemy anymore. It is simply the world they inhabit, the world they have come to know. Their faces are tired, their eyes heavy with the weight of the days that have passed. They are scarred now, both inside and out, shaped by the land, shaped by the cold. But they are not broken. They are still here, still alive. The fire crackles again, the embers casting brief flashes of light in the darkness. They do not move. They do not need to. The fire is enough. It is their connection to the world they have come to accept, the world they have learned to live in. And for now, that is enough. They do not know what tomorrow will bring. They do not know if the storm will return, if the cold will grow fiercer, if the night will last longer than they can endure. But they know one thing: they will survive. The cold will never fully leave, but neither will they. They have become part of it, woven into its fabric, as much a part of it as the stone, the snow, the wind. It has shaped them. It has made them who they are. And now, it is all they know. And they will endure, because they are the land. They are the fire. They are the cold. The fire flickers once more, its warmth struggling to hold on, but it does not go out. Not yet. The cold presses in, but they do not move. They hold their ground, their bodies still, their minds focused. The land has shaped them, and now they are bound to it. They do not need to fight anymore. They need only to endure, and so they will. The wind howls outside, but inside they are still. The cold is always there, but so is the fire, and in that balance, they find their strength. The cold will never fully leave, but neither will they. They survive not because they fight, but because they endure. And in that endurance, there is life, there is strength, there is survival, and that is enough. The world outside is a vast expanse of white, where nothing is soft, nothing is forgiving. Each step is a potential mistake, a misstep that could send them sprawling, tumbling into the abyss of the frozen wasteland. The snow crunches beneath their boots, loud in the stillness, but each movement is slow, deliberate. They have learned that even the smallest of actions could lead to their undoing. The ice is not something to be battled. It is something to be navigated with quiet precision, with patience. Each breath is sharp, a whisper in the cold air, escaping in thick, visible clouds that dissipate as quickly as they form. The wind stirs again, a soft, biting breeze that cuts through their clothing, clawing at their exposed skin, a constant reminder that the cold is never far. They move with the land, not against it. Every shift, every turn of the head, every step is calculated. The world has become a delicate balance between life and death. And here, in this frozen expanse, the difference between the two lies in the smallest details. The ice is unforgiving. It does not care for their struggle, for their fight to survive. It waits, silent and still, like the world itself has forgotten how to move. But they know better. They know that the ice will take them if they are not careful. The cold will consume them, body and soul, if they do not move with the utmost caution. Every step must be measured, every motion considered, as if the very ground beneath them might crack and swallow them whole. They do not rush. There is no hurry in this world, only the slow, deliberate movements of survival. Their eyes are sharp, scanning the path ahead. They do not speak, for there is no need. The land has taught them the language of silence, the language of patience. They know that in this world, nothing is certain. Nothing is guaranteed. Each day, each breath is a gift, one that can be taken away in the blink of an eye. And so, they move forward, step by step, navigating the frozen wasteland with quiet resolve. The ice creaks beneath them, a soft, ominous sound that sends a ripple of tension through their bodies. They pause, eyes flicking down to the ground, assessing the stability of the earth beneath their feet. It is a dance, this survival, a dance with death where every movement counts, where every step could be their last. They move forward again, but slower this time, more cautiously. They are aware of every crack, every shift in the earth, every tremor that runs through the snow. The wind picks up once more, howling through the trees, but it does not shake them. They are focused, locked into the rhythm of the land. The cold does not threaten them, not anymore. It is a part of them now, as much a part of them as the bones in their body, as the fire that burns in the cave. They have learned to move with it, to work with it, to understand it. And in this understanding, they have found their strength. They reach the edge of a frozen river, its surface smooth and glassy, reflecting the gray sky above. The ice stretches out before them, unbroken, a vast expanse of frozen water that seems to disappear into the horizon. They stop. The decision now lies in the smallest of details. The ice could hold their weight, or it could crack beneath them, sending them tumbling into the freezing waters below. The risk is calculated, but the stakes are high. Every movement now must be carefully weighed, every step measured against the possibility of disaster. The wind stirs again, sending a fine layer of snow swirling around their feet, but they do not flinch. They are not afraid. They are patient. They know that every decision they make here will determine whether they survive or not. They take one step, then another, their bodies moving as if part of the ice itself, as if they are becoming one with the land. The ice creaks again, but it does not break. They take another step, then another, each one slower than the last, each one more deliberate. Their breath is steady now, even though the cold is still there, biting at their skin, gnawing at their bones. But the fear is gone. It has been replaced with something deeper, something more primal, strategy, patience, a quiet internal strength that has been honed by the cold, by the land, by the fight for survival. They are not rushing. There is no need for haste in this world. The only thing that matters now is moving forward, step by step, with slow triumph. The ice holds, and they make it to the other side. It is a small victory, but it is enough. They pause for a moment, just a brief breath, to acknowledge the success, to acknowledge the survival. And then, without a word, they move on. There is more to be done, more steps to take, more battles to fight. But for now, they have won this one. They have danced with the ice, and they have lived to see another moment. The cold still presses in, the wind still howls, but they do not stop. They have learned the rhythm of survival. They have learned to move with the land, to move with the ice, to move with the storm. They do not fight against it. They dance with it. And in this dance, they find their strength, their resolve, their survival. They move on, step by step, the frozen world stretching out before them. The land is vast, unforgiving, but they are not afraid. They know that in this world, survival is not a matter of strength. It is a matter of endurance. And they will endure. They will survive, because they have learned how to dance with the ice. The night presses down upon them, a heavy, suffocating weight that fills every inch of the cave. The fire flickers weakly, casting long, thin shadows that stretch like tendrils into the corners of the stone walls. The warmth it offers is fleeting, barely enough to keep the cold at bay. The storm outside has died down, but the darkness remains, an unbroken stretch of blackness that feels as though it has been here forever, stretching on endlessly, with no promise of relief. The fire crackles, but its light seems to shrink with each passing moment. as if the darkness is slowly swallowing it whole. The air is still, too still, heavy with the sense that the night is not only long, but endless. There is no indication of time, no markers, no clues, only the weight of the darkness, a slow, grinding pressure that grinds down their thoughts, their resolve. Outside, the world may have quieted, but here, inside the cave, it feels as though everything is suspended, caught in the grip of something far larger, far darker. They huddle close to the fire, each body pressed together for warmth, each person drawn to the light, as if it were the last thing left that could make them feel human. The silence between them is deep. There is no need for words. The cold has stripped them of that. The chill has frozen their voices, frozen their expressions. There is only the shared understanding of the night, of the long, agonizing wait for something, anything, that will break the spell, that will lift the burden of the dark. The night is not just cold, not just empty. It is a living thing, wrapping itself around them, tightening its grip with each passing moment. Their bodies ache from the stillness, from the weight of the cold that presses into their skin, into their bones. They cannot move too much, cannot waste what little energy they have. Every movement feels heavy, deliberate, and still the darkness holds them. It stretches on, an endless void that threatens to swallow them whole. Their breath rises in thick clouds, disappearing into the air almost as quickly as it escapes their lungs. They try to conserve their strength, try to hold on to the warmth that flickers in the firelight. But each breath is a reminder of how fleeting everything is, how quickly the warmth can slip away. The fire is strong, but not strong enough to hold back the night. The fire can only burn for so long before it too fades into the dark, like everything else. They know this. They know that the warmth will not last forever. But for now, it is all they have, and they hold on to it, holding their breath, holding the moment, holding on to the fragile comfort of light in a world that is so much colder than they are. Time becomes meaningless in the darkness. There are no clocks here, no markers for when the night will end. They cannot remember how long it has been since the storm stopped, how long it has been since the last gust of wind stopped howling through the cracks of the cave. Hours? Days? The passage of time feels elusive, like smoke in the air. There one moment, gone the next. They stare into the fire, eyes fixed on the flickering flames as if they might find a way to push back the darkness by sheer will. Each crackle, each pop of the fire is a reminder of the fragile line between warmth and cold. It is not a battle, not a fight they can win. It is endurance. Endurance against the cold, against the dark, against the vast, unyielding night. They survive not because they are strong, but because they are here, because they are still breathing, still sitting by the fire, still fighting to hold on to the warmth that the night is slowly stealing from them. They do not speak. What words are there to say? They have all said everything they could say, shared all the small comforts they could. They are past words now, past the need for assurances. They are in the grip of the longest night, and the only thing left is the simple act of enduring, of surviving until the dawn comes, if it comes. But even as they sit in the dark, even as they feel the weight of the cold and the fear press in around them, they know something. The night will not last forever. The dark will eventually break. The storm will pass. The wind will die down, and the dawn will come. The dawn is distant. It is a promise that hangs just out of reach. The fire flickers again, its light casting faint shadows on the stone, its warmth a fleeting touch that barely reaches the edges of their skin. But in the flickering light, in the fragile warmth, they find a spark of hope. The darkness will not last. The cold will not win. They have made it this far, and they will make it further. The night is long, but it is not eternal. They sit in silence, the only sound the crackling of the fire, the soft sigh of their breath. They are not alone. They never have been. The fire is still there, a defiance against the void, a tiny rebellion that refuses to be extinguished. And even though the night feels endless, even though the cold presses in from all sides, they hold on. They hold on to the fire, to each other, to the quiet understanding that the dawn will come. It is a distant thing, a cruel thing, but it is there. And in that knowing, they find their strength. The night stretches on, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, the darkness begins to recede. The fire flickers brighter for a moment, a tiny burst of strength against the overwhelming weight of the night. The wind stirs once more, but it is gentler now. Not the angry howl it was before. The fire burns steady, casting long shadows across the cave. They can feel the night beginning to loosen its grip, feel the edges of the cold begin to shift, to melt. The dawn is coming. It is still distant, still cruel, but it is coming, and with it, the promise that no darkness is eternal, no night is everlasting. It will pass, just as they will pass through it, just as they will endure until the light comes. They sit in the flickering warmth, in the quiet stillness, waiting for the moment when the darkness finally gives way. The longest night will end, and with it, the dawn will come. The land remains unyielding, frozen in its eternal grip. The snow piles higher, the ice hardens, and the earth seems to close its arms around them with a kind of quiet, unspoken cruelty. The world outside is a stretch of white, endless, untouched, and cold. There is no escape from it, no place of refuge beyond the walls of the cave. The storm has passed, but the land has not softened. The cold is not a force to be vanquished. It is a companion now, a constant presence that will never release them entirely. They stand at the mouth of the cave, looking out over the frozen wasteland that stretches before them. The trees, once strong and tall, are bowed under the weight of snow, their branches heavy and lifeless. The horizon is a blur of white, the sky a pale, distant gray. The earth itself seems to be holding its breath, suspended in the stillness, frozen in time. The cold cuts through them like a knife, gnawing at their skin, seeping into their bones, and yet they do not move. There is no point in moving. There is nothing to do but endure. The fire within the cave is their only hope. Its warmth is a fleeting thing, barely enough to push back the cold that presses against them. But it is all they have. And so, they return to it, huddling close, drawn to its warmth like moths to a flame. The flickering light dances in the dark, its glow casting long shadows across their faces, a brief promise of safety in a world that has turned to ice. For a moment, the cold is forgotten, buried beneath the comfort of the fire. For a moment, they are alive. But the warmth is fleeting, always fleeting. The fire is not enough to conquer the cold. It is a small thing, fragile, fighting a battle it cannot win. The land outside remains untouched, indifferent to their struggle. It is not a battle they can win. It is a struggle for survival, plain and simple. The cold will never fully release its grip. It will press against them, claw at them, wear them down with its constant presence. But they are here. They endure. The land is untouchable, as if it has made a decision to remain indifferent to their presence. The ice will not melt for them. The wind will not soften. The storm will not stop. They are not masters of this land. They are not even its children. They are intruders, nothing more. But the cold will not take them so easily. The fire, though small, still burns, and with it burns the quiet defiance that says, "We are here. We are still alive." The air is thick with the weight of the world. The cold is everywhere. It has seeped into their hearts, into their souls. It is not something they can shake off. It is part of them now. The land, with its icy breath, has become a part of who they are. It presses against them, always, but it also shapes them. They have learned to move with the cold, to live with it, to accept it as an undeniable truth. There is no other choice. The fire is a small rebellion against that truth, a tiny flicker in a vast frozen world. But for now, it is enough. It is a symbol of their strength, their resilience. It is a sign that they are not ready to surrender to the land, to the cold, to the darkness that presses against them. They are still here. And as long as the fire burns, they will continue to fight. They do not speak. What is there to say? The world outside is silent, empty, and cold. The fire is warm, but it is also small, fragile. There is no real comfort in it, no real certainty. It is just a light in the dark, a flicker that may burn out at any moment. And yet, they sit by it. They huddle close, not because it is enough, but because it is all they have. It is a quiet act of resistance. They will not let the cold take them. Not yet. The land remains untouchable. The ice remains unbroken. There is no place beyond the fire, beyond the cave. The cold will not relent, but they endure. They have learned to live with it, to survive it. They are not the conquerors of this land, but they are its survivors. And in that, there is a kind of power, a kind of strength. The night stretches on, and the fire burns steady, flickering in the quiet dark. They watch it, knowing that the warmth it offers is fleeting, that it will not last forever. But for now, they are alive. For now, they are warm. For now, they endure. The world outside is still. The wind has died down. The snow has stopped falling. But the cold is always there, lurking just beneath the surface, ready to take hold again. It will not let them forget. But the fire, however small, is a reminder that they are still here, still fighting, still surviving. The cold will never fully release them, but neither will they. They will survive it, not because they can defeat it, but because they have learned to live with it. The land is frozen and untouchable, but they are not. The fire burns, and with it burns the quiet defiance that says, "We are still here." And that, in this world, is enough. The cold is always there. It never fully leaves, never fully lets go. It creeps in at the edges, slipping under the cracks of the stone, curling around the walls, seeping into the very air they breathe. The wind may be still for a time, but the cold presses against them, a constant, invisible force. It is relentless, a quiet presence that fills every corner of the cave, making its way into their bones, into their hearts. It is a reminder that no matter how much warmth they gather, no matter how much they huddle together for comfort, the cold will always be there, lurking just beyond the reach of the firelight. The fire, though small, still burns. It flickers in the dark, its flame dancing like a fragile heart beating against the overwhelming silence. It is not enough to banish the cold entirely, but it is enough to hold it back for a time. Every crackle of the fire, every burst of warmth, is a small rebellion against the world outside, against the relentless cold that seeks to consume them. It is a quiet act of defiance, a symbol of their strength, their will to survive, despite everything. The cold presses in, but the fire refuses to die. It is weak, yes, but it is still alive, still fighting, still flickering. The warmth it offers is fleeting, but it is enough to remind them that they are not defeated. Not yet. The fire becomes their focus, their point of resistance. As long as it burns, they are not completely lost to the cold. It is the thin line between survival and surrender, and they will hold on to it for as long as they can. They sit close to the fire, their bodies drawn together in shared warmth, but the cold still reaches them, always there, creeping around the edges of the flame. It is in the air, in the stone beneath them, in the very bones of the cave. It is a presence that cannot be shaken, but the fire stands its ground, refusing to be consumed by it. The flickering light casts long, shifting shadows on the walls, but it is not the shadows that they fear. It is the cold, the quiet, unrelenting force that waits for any moment of weakness to creep back in. Each breath is a reminder of how fragile their warmth is. The air feels heavy with it, each inhalation carrying the sting of the cold that presses against their chest. But still, they endure. They do not let the cold break them. They draw closer to the fire, closer to each other, and for a moment, the world outside fades away. It is not enough to banish the cold, but it is enough to push it back, just for now. Enough to remind them that they are alive, that they are still holding on. The cold may be unyielding, but so too is the fire. They have learned to live with it, to understand its rhythms, its patterns. They know the fire will not last forever, that it will eventually fade, that the cold will return. But for now, it is enough. They have learned the art of survival, not by defeating the cold, but by enduring it. The fire is their quiet strength, a beacon of resilience in a world that offers no comfort. It is small, fragile, but it burns. And in that burning, there is life. Outside, the world remains cold, frozen in its eternal embrace. The storm may have passed, but the land is still locked in the grip of winter. The snow lies thick on the ground. The wind howls from a distance. But here, in the cave, the fire burns. It is a small thing, but it is enough to hold the darkness at bay, enough to push back the cold for a little while longer. It is the last of their warmth, the last of their hope, and they cling to it, refusing to let go. The cold will always be there, creeping in, never fully leaving, but so too will the fire. They are two forces that will always be in opposition, pushing and pulling at each other. But for now, the fire refuses to die, and in that quiet, unyielding defiance, they find their strength. They sit in the warmth of the fire, eyes fixed on its flickering light, hearts steady in the quiet presence of the flame. The cold is always there, pressing in, but it cannot touch them here. Not yet. Not while the fire burns. The warmth may be fleeting, but it is enough to remind them that they are still alive, still holding on, still defying the cold that seeks to consume them. The cold will always return, as it always does. The fire will eventually fade, and the darkness will return. But they have learned something. They have learned that survival is not about fighting the cold, not about conquering it. It is about enduring. It is about holding on to the warmth, holding on to each other, and waiting for the fire to rise again. It is about resilience in the face of an unyielding world. The fire flickers once more, its light casting a final glow in the dark, but the cold is already pressing in again. It is a reminder that they are not safe, that the struggle is not over, that the night is long and the cold will return. But still, the fire burns. It burns quietly, steadily, a small act of defiance against a world that will never fully let them go. And for now, that is enough. The last of the frost clings to the walls, its icy fingers reluctant to let go, but it is fading now, slowly, like a memory slipping into the past. The air, once sharp and biting, is softer, gentler. The storm has passed, the wind has quieted, and the silence that follows is thick with the promise of something new. The fire crackles weakly, its glow dimming, but it is still there, still burning, still holding on. For a moment, the cave feels different, lighter, as if the weight of the cold has been lifted, if only for tonight. The warmth from the fire spreads through the cave, touching the stone, filling the space with a comforting embrace. It is not the warmth of the sun, not the heat that comes with the long days of summer, but it is enough to remind them that they have made it through, enough to remind them that the night is not eternal, that the cold, though relentless, cannot last forever. They sit close to the fire, their bodies relaxed for the first time in what feels like an eternity. The chill that had gnawed at their bones, the constant biting wind, the harsh cold that never seemed to relent. It is all gone now, pushed back by the quiet, steady warmth that rises from the flames. It is a fragile peace, a brief reprieve from the long battle of survival. But it is peace. And tonight, for the first time in so long, it is enough. They do not speak. There is no need for words. The quiet fills the space, rich with the understanding that they have made it through the hardest of times. The fire crackles softly, casting long shadows on the walls. And for a moment, the cave feels like a sanctuary, safe, protected, warm. The frost has faded. The cold will return. They know this, but not tonight. Not tonight. Tonight, there is warmth. Tonight, there is survival. They feel the shift in the air, the subtle change that marks the end of winter's reign. The night still holds a chill, but it is not the same. The frost is no longer a force pressing in from all sides. The land, once locked in the grip of ice, is beginning to thaw. The snow outside, though still present, no longer feels like an endless sea of white. There is the promise of something more, something that comes with the light, with the warmth of the world returning. The fire, though dimming, is a beacon of that promise. The warmth it offers is a reminder of what they have endured and what is yet to come. They sit in the quiet, in the warmth, for as long as the fire will allow. There is no hurry. There is no need to rush. The fire flickers again, casting brief shadows that stretch across the cave, but it does not die. Not yet. And so they hold on to this moment, this fragile space of warmth, of peace. The cold will return, they know. The frost will rise again. The storm will find its way back. But tonight, the land is still. Tonight, they are safe. Outside, the world is still blanketed in snow, but the storm is gone. The wind has quieted, leaving only the soft crunch of snow beneath their feet. The darkness outside feels different now, not oppressive, not consuming. It is simply night. The promise of dawn is not far off, though it is still distant. The night will end, and with it, the cold will retreat for a time. And so they wait, not with fear, but with quiet anticipation. The end of winter is not a single moment. It is a slow, gentle unfolding, a shift that happens in the quietest of ways. The fire dims one last time, but it does not go out. The warmth remains, though faint, like the last echoes of a song sung long ago. The frost is gone, the cold is easing, and though the night is still long, it is not as long as it once seemed. They do not rush to the end. They are here, they are alive, and for tonight, that is enough. In the stillness, in the quiet warmth of the cave, there is a sense of closure. The long battle is over, for now. Winter, though not defeated, has released its grip. The cold, though always lurking, will not take them tonight. Tonight, they have survived. Tonight, there is warmth. Tonight, there is life. And tomorrow, they will face what comes next. But for now, they sit in the warmth of the fire, letting the quiet settle around them like a soft blanket. The frost has faded. The night will pass. The fire, though fading, still burns, and with it burns the hope that they have made it through, that they are still here. The world outside may still be cold, still be harsh, but tonight there is peace.